And now I have them for the thing, so I'm going to see them. I will. I have 2 videos and presentations. I don't know. It's like,
Okay,
we need to do anything for the sound or anything.
it should be linked through. Yeah, it should be linked through. Hi, Sonia.
Hi,
Hi, everybody.
hello. All right, you ready?
We are ready.
Okay. So. Regular meeting to order. We are all here. Just need a motion to approve the agenda. I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Can I, with the agenda, I have a representative from IJAG is gonna present tonight. I told him to get on around 7:30. So whenever we get to a breaking point, if we can stop and do that presentation and let him present and have that discussion, and that's in our discussion items. And then jump back into where we're at. That would be nice if we can, please.
Just give me a second.
I'll second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to approve the agenda as presented. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Hi.
Opposed? Okay. So. Any conflict of interest for tonight?
Yeah, so I'm going to have to abstain from the consent items.
All right.
Thank you, Jim.
Jim Ameline will abstain from consent items. Usually just kind of pulled out a specific one out.
Yep.
Okay. So,
So Jim will have to, from new hires, correct?
yeah.
Thank you for catching that, Jim. I totally blanked
Okay.
it.
All right, so. We will. Let's see how we do that. So we will approve. I will need a motion for consent items. A, C, D, E, F, and G, or just consent items all but B. Separately from B. So if somebody wants to make a motion, that's how we'll need to go. Well, that's right.
Yeah,
So, next public hearing of high school, middle school improvements for the rebid of the glazing.
Hello again, everybody. Happy to be here. So what I've got is plans and specifications, which are digital copies, the exact same plans and specifications from the original bid from last year. And then in this case, we kind of have the benefit of using a 2-for-1 budget year from what the budget would have been going into this bid and what it currently is today. Budget. So for the public hearing, we've got to approve of the budget, approve of the plans and specifications, and as presented. And technically, the glazing budget fits within the budget that you're seeing here on this first page. But the original estimate, the budget estimate for the glazing bid package on its own was $253,345 plus whatever remaining bid contingency there was. But it all fits within the overall budget. The first page, yeah, it includes how the bids actually came in on the first page, but the second page does include what the budget estimate was.
Four tables.
You have 4 bidders. So technically, this is the approval of the plans and specifications as presented, and then the approval comes later for
The,
the glazing bid.
are there any other questions on it? If not, we need to approve it.
It's, I guess I do have one question, George.
Yeah.
I was assuming you already told us if there was any bidders that we didn't believe could accomplish the.
Well, that would come in, I guess, down the list here, but from a public hearing standpoint, there was no concerns for the bidders ahead of time.
Gotcha. Any other questions? Need to make a motion to approve.
You make the motion to approve plans and specifications as presented and the budget estimate for public hearing requirements. And then the action item later on is to approve the contract to the glazer. So in this case, you could do a 2-for-1 here in one school board meeting. Where you have to have a public hearing to approve of bid documents, which we did already approve of that. The same bid documents, but with this being a rebid, it's a formality where you have to reapprove of the plans and specifications. And then later on down the list, we'll approve of awarding it to the contractor, the apparent low bidder. It's a formality.
Before it's done in public hearing, where we allow people to make comments. And then there's no action taken until we actually get to our action items to stay kind of true to our policy or procedures.
I think that is true, but I do think that you do, oh, maybe I'm wrong on this. I was thinking that you do approve of the plans specifications.
They've already been approved of.
It's true.
So
Well,
we don't need an action item.
Yeah.
We don't need to take action because it's already been approved. We just have to have the public hearing so people can question. You're correct.
So, and we've done that already previously before we put everything up to bid.
This is
Through the
true.
plan
Yeah.
specification. So we really don't need to redo it. We just need to, down in action items, we just need to approve the bid.
Yep. We were just required to have the public hearing because of the glazing.
Because it was a rebid.
It's a rebid.
We
Yep,
didn't get any takers on it.
that is correct.
If you wanted to say great, or they had a problem with it, that was your opportunity.
Okay, yep, there you go.
Does
Perfect.
anybody want to say anything about the glazing bid?
Yes, she said she can find it. And then the public hearing, and go out.
Okay. So are we going out then? All right, next on the agenda. What's that?
Getting you a rubber mouth. Take it easy, Troy.
That was- Okay. So next, is there any visitors that need to address the board that aren't already scheduled? If not, we're on to our reports. First up. We already had one report today.
All right, we're gonna talk about Lincoln. So we're gonna first talk about some of the celebrations that we've had. And the next slide is, this is one of our PBIS celebrations. We went in November to the movies. That was one of our final celebrations we did last year, but in May, apparently you don't get as many movie choices. And so they got to go to the movies in November. And then this was our before break bash. It's right before winter break. The kids get to pick 2 different craft things to do, and they go in lots of different classrooms and do some fun crafts, cocoa, but I don't know exactly what was happening there with the shaving cream, but yeah. So that was our Victoria Break Bash. And then just last week, we had our second family night. We had a literacy family night. We had we had 2 local police officers come. They brought their canine dog. And so we had chili and we read books and just had a nice evening with our families that night. And then our learning goals tonight is, I can explain how Lincoln has worked to accomplish goals so far. And you can review the data to view our progress towards our building goals. So first of all, this is Daisy, and I have declared her the cutest puppy in the whole wide world. I don't know about you, but I think she's adorable. She's our new therapy puppy. Erin Gibble, our 4th grade teacher, is the handler. And she just goes everywhere with Erin right now. And I think she's going to go away for a few weeks to get like some intensive training after a bit, but I think she's so sweet. So these are our building goals, that we want 90% of our students who were below benchmark to be progress monitored by the end of the school year. That's one of our healthy indicators, is that if you're below benchmark, you need to be progress monitored every week. So 90% is our goal there. And that we wanted 65% of our students will be at or above benchmark on the A reading screener. And then in math, 75% of our students will be at or above benchmark. Oh, I said A reading, that's A math. And then for our social emotional behavioral health, we will increase our positive to corrective feedback to students to 5 to 1 by the end of the school year. And I'm going to give you more information about what that means. So in literacy so far this year, at the beginning of the year, we adopted Nancy Fetzer's writing materials, and hers is some online classes on how to teach writing to our learners. And so our teams have been collaborating, watching those videos, writing plans, teaching the stuff to our kids. And then one of the more basic lessons was a sentence builder that we realized that all of our students needed to learn it before we moved into more complex writing. And so here's an example of our sentence builder. This is Mr. Burhow doing the chant for the sentence builder. All of our kids learned how to do this.
Adam, can you turn it up real quick? Sorry.
Talking about writing a sophisticated sentence, and she's all about hand motions, Nancy Fetzer. So the kids really enjoy those actions, and Nancy Fetzer has those hand motions with a lot of her materials. And so all across our building, kids are learning the hand motions, and they're standing up and they're rehearsing what they're going to write, and then they're going to write. So we've made a lot of progress this year in our writing. Our next is math. We are continuing to support the implementation of our math curriculum called Illustrative Math. We've talked, I know we've all talked about that a little bit. We are using those materials from kindergarten all the way up through 8th grade now in our district. One thing that we have changed this year, Lincoln was doing mainly pull out using our Title I teachers when it comes to math intervention and reading intervention. We're continuing to do more pull out lessons for reading intervention, but for math, our Title I teachers are going in and co-teaching in general education classes. And at the end of each one of those illustrative math lessons is a cool down, which is a formative assessment. And the teachers are taking that formative assessment and they're looking at got it, not got it piles. And then the next day they're responding right away to kids who might need some reteaching or kids who need some more extensions. So that on the spot support has been really cool to watch. And then lastly, for social emotional behavioral health, this is what we've been up to this year. You don't need to click on that. You can look at that link later if you'd like, but we, at the beginning, before the year started, I already talked with you about this when I presented last time. We aligned our Capturing Kids' Hearts walkthrough tools with our PBIS 6 Effective Classroom Practices tools. We completed our classroom matrix, which is the routines that we teach our kids all across the building. Every classroom has the same routine for entering and exiting the classroom, for large group work, for small group work. And so these are all the things we've already done, and you can click on this now, the classroom teaching matrix. So this is professional learning that we have done this year so far. The first one was looking at this classroom matrix. This is what I was just talking about, that this is how we are respectful, responsible, and safe in whole and small group, entering and exiting the classroom, independent work, and so on. If you just scroll down, these are all the lessons that all of our teachers will keep going. So this is the lessons that our teachers would use in order to teach how to do the routine within each of these parts of the building. And then we look at our data and we think, how are our kids doing with entering and exiting the classroom, for example? And we might need to do some reteaching and practicing. So that was the first piece that we really looked at, was that matrix. And then you can move back to the PowerPoint. And then the next one is encouraging appropriate behavior. Wait, just a second before you click on that. Encouraging appropriate behavior is when you are looking to see what kids are doing and giving them attaboys and attagirls for what they're doing already versus correcting behavior. And this is a video that we showed our staff about why it's so important to encourage appropriate behavior. There's gonna be a few, oh good, maybe there's no ads.
We want to make sure is basically, am I paying more attention to positive behavior or am I paying more attention to negative behavior? Now that's an important distinction, because many people think you're talking about nice things teachers do versus mean things that they do or something else. Let's take the belittlement off the table and just assume that it's not in the teacher's repertoire. So we're not even talking about the negatives having anything to do with that. The negatives are anytime I'm having to pay attention to misbehavior that I consider to be negative misbehavior. I'm trying to use my interaction shaping back to either following the rules or the procedures or whatever they have to be. And I'm basically saying that that negative may need to have been done. So may need that information right now. But I'm also saying, in part, what I have just communicated to this child is one way to get my attention is to do something that annoys me. So I want to make sure that I buttress against that possibility by you also saying it is actually easier to get my attention and more satisfying and a better kind of attention to get attention from me when you're exhibiting pro-social behaviors. So that includes everything from like, if I had to correct you right before you left my class today, but I see you later in the hall, you're not even coming to my class, but I say, yeah, very good to see you. Good afternoon. They're only in a one-to-one with that kid, where that kid is saying, okay, he did correct my behavior, he said I need to be doing an extra line, but also he doesn't seem more grudge. Just saying, hey, good afternoon, has communicated. We're at the very least, we're back to even. The next day, when you're walking into my class, they say, you're very good to see you today. That's two, because it's 2 times that I've interacted with you and you were not engaged in this behavior. Neither of them in this particular case involve praise. There are 2 demonstrations that you don't need to screw up or anyone needs to be noticed by me. And then a little bit later in class, I get the class engaged in an independent work period, and I just come over and I just look at the quality of your work. Okay, looks like you're doing great. Please let me know if you have any questions. That just acknowledges that I noticed your on-task behavior, and that puts me at 3 to 1. The 3 to 1 is more conservative than most behavioral experts suggest, so I encourage you to think about that as the minimum. But it's basically you want every kid to see all of the adults in this school are much more interested in capitalizing on and solidifying strength than they are just trying to catch weakness. If I'm not careful, I can end up paying so much attention to misbehavior that my kids will start their attention fine. If I do what this guy wants, he doesn't even notice him here. But if I annoy him, I can get his attention like that. I definitely want to avoid that. But I want all of my kids to say, I notice their strengths. And that video is done by paying attention to their positive behavior. Something I didn't mention with the group today that should have is with secondary teachers, some kids that they really have to watch for with this are the average kids. Because the average kids may never be causing any problems, they may never come, oh, I need to pay more positive attention to this kid. But there are also kids that can potentially just fade into the woodwork completely and remain completely in those. So if you're never causing problems in class, but your abilities may not be outstanding, I at the very least need to be able to notice when I see you put in a little bit of extra effort into something, that the quality of your work is a little bit better, or the courage to participate a little bit more. I need to let you know that I notice that effort.
So that's a little more about the positive to corrective ratio. We're shooting for 5-1 in our building.
It has one more NFL. MVP.
Sorry, I'm trying to get out of this. There we go.
Okay. And then the last thing that we talked about is the continuum of responses for inappropriate behavior. You can click on that. This is our matrix at Lincoln, and the continuum of responses for inappropriate behavior is right here. So when you're seeing some inappropriate behavior, you may plan to ignore, you may provide physical
Sorry.
proximity where you move closer to the child. You might have direct eye contact, and all the way down to, you want to try a whole bunch of things before you get to that conference with the student where you're coming in and saying, okay, I'm seeing that you're doing this. I need you to do this. Can we make a commitment to do that? And that's what's we can, yeah. So over in here, this is when you're looking at that inappropriate behavior, there's a couple different ways to respectfully address the child in order to correct that behavior. So that was our last PD that we have done on social emotional behavioral health. And the next one coming up to Friday is going to be on engagement and opportunities at school. So this is just really increasing everybody's response rate within your classroom. If we're only calling on kids with their hands up, it's often the same kids. And it also gives kids kids who are not having their hand up, a free pass to maybe I don't need to engage. So we're really going to focus in on how are we reaching all of those students? How are we making sure each student is thinking and engaged in the lesson by using every student response techniques, having them turn and talk, having them write on whiteboards, so that we are making sure that all of our kids are engaged. So that's what's going to be happening on Friday. And then, so this is our goals, this is our current status here. So in literacy, in the fall, we had 64% of our kids were proficient on the screener. We went down a bit this winter with 60% proficient. Our goal is 65. In math, we started off, we had 70% students proficient on the screener. This winter, we were at 68. Our goal is 75. For our positive corrective ratio in the fall, we did a little dipstick. The ratio was 1 positive to 3 correctives. In the winter, we went up to 8 positives to 1 corrective. I'm going to tell you a little bit about that. When we did the data collection for the positive to corrective in the fall, it was me and my instructional coach. We went into classrooms and did tallies. In the winter, we had teachers partner up with each other and go and watch for 10 minutes. So the teachers knew they were being watched for that 10 minutes for the positive to corrective, but then they also met together and talked about what they saw. And we thought that that was going to be way more impactful than just somebody coming in and like tallying while they watch you teach. So we will probably even out a little bit because our last data collection will be the instructional coach and I going into classrooms. So our goal is 5-1. And this is just a reminder of our triangle. We talked about that a little bit in the pre-session, that when you know your tier 1 is strong, then 80% of your students are going to be successful. You have about 15% of your students in that tier 2, and then in tier 1, tier 3, you've got about 5% of your students. So this is what our behavioral triangle looks like at Lincoln. The next slide is currently right now, we have 88% of our students, and this is our behavioral interventions. 88% of our students are receiving no additional intervention when it comes to behavior. We have 10% of our students in tier 2 And then 3% of our students have tier 3 behavioral interventions. And that's all I have for you tonight. Do you have any questions for me?
Back a few slides or something.
Sure.
I didn't quite- Well, then it's maybe one first. Well, must have, I don't know if it was one of the links. Maybe engagement and opportunities. Is there some? Yep. Is there another one? No?
We didn't go down that far. I only went to the second page. This one.
No. That's fine. Can we go to the data then? I guess any insights as far as the winter data? You want to share besides this?
Yeah, I know that it's disconcerting because we're really working hard to make those numbers go up. I'm told that you're a lot of times that winter screener, they do go down and then you'll get to see a little bit of rise in the spring, but as far as I know, I don't really know how to account for it going down.
When was the winter screener done?
Right when we got back from winter break, it just got done just a little bit ago.
Do you feel like that might be a bad time to do the screener maybe right after break?
Maybe, I don't know. I was,
I didn't know
yeah,
if there was any history of that. Always showing as a bad, kids come back from break and.
yeah, we don't do it like the week they come back. It's a couple weeks in. Huh? It's the window, but
The state gives us a window we can test it. So you have to pick a week, where you have to pick time within them.
So spring will be. What's the window for spring?
I don't know right off the top of my head, sometime in
What do you expect?
April-ish. Yeah,
I can't remember if it's April or May.
I could pull up my calendar and tell you.
Okay.
Other questions?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, next up. is Eda.
Yep.
Lee, thank you very much. Next up, Mr. Jones.
Okay, we'll go over our attendance data first, just so you can kind of see where we're at. So year-to-date totals, this column. 21-22, same exact time column as this column. And then the change in comparison to last year is the third column. Yep, we'll get to them here in a second. Cohorts. The cohort is this one compared to this one. That vertical or that diagonal line, everyone. So that gives you an idea. Right now, we're averaging 34 students more per day at school, which is huge. It's a big deal.
Does that include the students, if they're in the building, or that also includes if they're education virtually?
Say it again, ask.
It's the same in the building. Yeah. It's really good.
Okay,
We keep that up every year.
we're gonna try to.
What happens if you go around? So.
We won't get over 100%. We'll get to 100. So, we have hired the middle school principal, Jess McLaughlin. We've offered to the Lincoln principal position to Olivia Fogelsong. She has accepted pending board approval, which we'll go through later on tonight. We are in the first round of interviews for the high school, and we've decided to re-advertise and interview again. We have offered the SBO position to Amy. She's accepted pending board approval, and we will post the AD position once the high school principal position is filled. So kind of to go along with that, I put number 7, I'll skip to number 7 real quick. Administrative insurance, I would like to look at offering family insurance. We've had a really hard time getting people with experience to apply for our positions. If you look at, I can count on one hand, we had 30, 40, we had 40 applicants for the 3 positions that we've had so far. And we've had less than 5 with experience without any baggage on them. So what I'm saying is most of the districts around us, most of the districts honestly throughout the state offer family insurance for administrators. We are an anomaly. If you're an administrator that wants to get to a bigger district, most of them, unless they have a tie to Washington, aren't going to look at Washington. Because they're gonna lose out on that family insurance. We're not gonna have an in-depth discussion tonight about it, but I know that we've lost candidates because we don't have family insurance. And if our best candidates, and I'm not saying they are our best candidates, but if they were our best candidates, it seems a little crazy to lose them for that. For what's good for our kids. Salary wise, I made a comparison to a district that's close to us. We're right at the same salary as them, plus they have family insurance. So it's putting us at a hiring disadvantage, to be very blunt. The last several ones that we've hired, we've cut down on contract days, and then I've had to do a breakdown of pay per day. And it's still, we've lost some of them we've had them for a year and they've left, and some of it is due to other things, but some of it is due to that also. So I think that's something that we need to look seriously at. If we want to continue we've been fortunate enough to hire some diamonds in the rough. I think Mike's a diamond in the rough for us as an experienced principal applying here at Washington from Keokuk.
So, just a quick question.
Yep.
So what is the possibility of getting us some costs on what that will run?
I will.
And is it possible to have that as an action item?
It is. That's the questions. The question I would have is, do we want to have an open board meeting for 40 minutes just to discuss that? That way we do a discussion time. We have a pretty set pattern of we discuss something and then we put it in action items, and I would hate to not do that, especially with something as big as this, because it is a big change.
Sure.
So that'll be something that I will send out. If this is, it seems like we're interested in at least discussing it. So I'll try to send out something to get dates where it works for people to have maybe a 30 minutes to an hour long work session. And I'm sorry, it won't be a work session, it'll be a special session to just have a discussion over this. I contacted our teachers union today to let them know I was gonna bring this up, and they were in support of if we have to do it to get good people, do it to get good people. So like I say, we've been very fortunate. I think we have good people that are coming in. But I really think it limits our field of people who apply. I know it does for the high school position. I can tell you specifically for that it has.
Can we also broaden that out to offering potentially family insurance for all certified staff, not just administrators? I mean, in this age of now school vouchers and things like that, we need to make ourselves more competitive. I have no idea what that would cost. Is that something we need to look?
We can look at it. Before we do that, I would like to get to my recommendation to the board before we do that is to get all of our non-certified staff up to full single family. We don't do that yet. So that would be the first thing, and then we can look at that. And that tag will be millions of dollars, not a couple $100,000. we can look at it. It's gonna be, we will have to be very inventive on how we get that taken, how we're able to pay for that. But we can definitely look at it. It costs on average $15,000 more to pay for family insurance than what it does to pay for single. If you do simple math, we have 150 people. Times 15,000. It's a lot of money. So,
I just know it's a lot of money when you have a family of, that are both teachers. And
Yeah.
have kids. It's really expensive.
Yeah.
Just a question. Since we're in the middle of looking for administrators and we have districts around us that are offering things for us. Is there any advantage to having a special meeting as soon as possible to discuss this and having another one before our next regular one to take action on it?
I am gonna push back I don't believe we'll need to because I'm gonna push back the date of when we'll get our administrative interview our high school candidates. It was originally set for, I believe, February 24th. And I'm gonna push it back to after that board meeting. So that I can contact people and say, hey, the board has decided to do this. Next year, we'll have family insurance. And there may be some ways that we do that, just to be able to eat it. That's what I'll present at the next meeting. I've already got ideas of what we can do. To be able to handle it without it really hammering our budget all in 1 year. So, all contracts have been signed for building project except for the glazing. Mr. Miller and I were supposed to attend a meeting at Central College. Job fair on Monday of this week. I've been out the past couple days. Mr. Miller did attend by himself. He was able to get a few leads for possible interviews, which is awesome. We were also able to see what we need to do differently. So he came back with a bunch of ideas on improving our presentation for the job fairs. We have one at Iowa State on March 6th. I am in the process of contacting all area colleges and universities to get our foot in the door. And Mr. Miller offered to do mock interviews to the people at Central just to get there and get our name in. And I think that's a great idea. Anything we can do to try to get our brand out there and get who we are and make those connections and build those relationships are important. The first legislative briefing will be this Friday, February 10th from 12 to 1. It'll be held at the KCTC building in Kelowna. There's the address. I will be in attendance. One of the things I'm super worried about is the passing of the ESAs, the extra cost on that in comparison to the 4-year projection of where we're at in 2026 with the flat tax. Revenues are tax revenues are going to go down, and this is I'll give you all the data so you can see it also. It's an independent company that does all the budget for the state. It shows we're going to have like a $1.4 million or billion gap by 2026 in comparison to where we're at now. And then at the same time, we're going to have about an $800 to $900 million increase in cost for ESA. So that if you do math, that doesn't work out. Your revenues are down here and your expenditures are going up here. So the thing I think we as a district need to do is keep talking about that pretty adamantly so that our citizens know that, hey, there's going to be a reckoning at some point in time, and what's going to happen. There's only so much money, something's going to get hurt. And my biggest fear is that public education will be the place where that pie will get cut short. So we need to make sure that we keep having that discussion, and I will get you the exact documents so you guys can see and you can have those talking points. I think that's really, really important. There's bills going through now talking about flexibility and spending. where you can move talented and gifted and homeschool assistance programs. And there are a couple more into a flexibility account if the board approves it. We use our at-risk funding, we use our talented and gifted. Our talented and gifted was built up. We're spending it down $30 a year, $30,000 a year, not 30, that'd take a long time. But $30,000 a year, so that we want to make the money we get, we want to make sure we're spending on our kids and trying to do the best we can with that for them. So I don't want to use that in the flex spending account where it's a one-time thing. You have this extra money, it can bail you out for a year, but then you're right back in the same hole in the same cycle after that. So there's a lot of things going through that I'll get you updated on also. I have presented at several service clubs over the past month. I've shared, you guys will be able to see what I've shared. And then I talked about the administrative salaries. So any other questions for me? If not, we'll jump on. I believe Marcus is on and ready to go, if that's okay. Any other questions? Or any questions? Okay, Marcus, I'm gonna stop share. Can you share your screen for us?
Yeah, can you hear me? All right.
Perfect.
All right. Can you all see my screen?
Yep.
Okay,
Whole
perfect.
thing, you're doing a good job.
All right, thank you. COVID taught us a few things. So good evening, everyone. My name is Marcus Lenning, and I'm with Iowa Jobs for America's Graduates. You'll also hear references IJAG. I appreciate your time this evening to let me come in and kind of talk about a little bit about what IJAG is, the discussions we've been having with Mr. Stone and other administration about potentially bringing in IJAG to Washington Community School District. This evening, real quick, I just want to take some time to talk about, what our program is, where we're kind of currently located, how IJAG operates, our education specialists, they're equivalent to your teachers in the classroom. So learn a little bit about them, talk about, in a typical setting, how we select the student process. So how we identify students for the program. And then ultimately, and most importantly, answer any questions that you all might have about IJAG, about next steps, and potential partnerships. So as you can see here on the screen, this is a map of kind of where we started here just this past fall. We currently have 129 programs across the state. So as you can see, we truly are a statewide organization. If you think about where you all are located, we are gaining some presence in that southeast pocket of the corner of the state. We're in Ottumwa, Cardinal, Mount Pleasant. We're in conversations right now with folks like Fairfield as well, to really bring this awareness of where we are. When I say a program, for us, that's a teacher in a classroom. So for some of our districts, it's in the 11th and 12th grade space. Some of it's the 9, 10, and we do have middle school programming as well. In some of our smaller districts, we might be running a high school program due to rosters and school size, where we're running a 9 through 12 program. You'll see that on your screen here is what we call our circle of life. I'll give some tidbits along the way around this, but this is kind of what we kind of operate and live by. At the very top is what we call our true north, which is the students. So, everything that we do here at IJAG is centered around student outcomes and student output. And we'll get into some of this, but we do things within the community to make sure that there's investment between employer partners, school administration, parents, IJAG as an organization. We do this through data and metrics. So I loved joining the call a little bit earlier and seeing, a little bit of a quick glimpse into your data to see kind of how, what you're doing aligns a lot with what we do in terms of data collection to identify, are we moving the needle with our students' outputs? So we internally here look at data metrics with all of our programs around attendance, GPAs, number of Fs, on track to graduate, and have those report outs provided to you all as stakeholders on a regular basis. And then as we kind of move through the circle here, we have tools that we provide our education specialists. They collaborate together, ultimately leading towards that return on investment for you all as partial stakeholders. We do this and run our programming through what we call the JAG Advantage. I'm going to give just a quick high level of the 3 pillars that we have. So it's project-based learning, which is our modality in the classroom. So we use project-based learning to help students attain those skills that they need to ultimately get them into young professionals, deciding what that post-secondary life looks like after high school. Including employer engagement. This was one of the big things that we've talked with you all at the district level about, is really getting kids connected to life outside. So what is it in terms of opportunities that's going to present to them from employment, post-secondary, whatever life really brings to them. And then the third leg of what we do is the trauma-informed care. So, I loved hearing a little bit earlier about the social, emotional behavior and learning that you all are doing. That aligns right along with what we do. It's truly meeting the students where they need to be met, asking about what's happened versus what's wrong, and then ultimately supporting them through the classroom and creating an environment that they feel welcome in, because ultimately they're going to thrive by feeling welcome. Our education specialists, as I said, we run project-based learning. We do this with skills through 7 essential constructs. We've moved from competency-based to construct-based with our partnerships with the AEA. So these competencies aren't lost, they're just grouped. And so the goal for all of our programs in a 2-year model with students is mastery in all 7 of these. Each grade level has a different set of expectations, understanding that a freshman coming into high school is going to have a different set of skills that we're trying to attain versus a senior that's about to step out into college or the working world. So as you can see with these 7 constructs on the screen, these are essentially what we're focusing on every single day to make sure that those students are the best prepared selves. So I want to talk real quick about our education specialists. So as I said, these are the folks in the classroom. These are folks that we hire in collaboration with the district. So we go through the interview process together, but we're the employer of record. We ultimately pay their salary, we pay their benefits, we do their upfront training, their ongoing professional development. And so really they're our employee that we place in the district, and we have oversight of them. We ultimately it's a partnership, which is what makes it unique, is that they are our employee, but ultimately spend every day within the district in the classroom. Our education specialists, they don't have to be licensed teachers, which opens up our candidate pool so that we can have folks that come from behavioral services, health services, counseling services. It might be somebody already in the district as a para or at-risk coordinators, work-based learning coordinators that might be a part-time with the district that ultimately we decide the best move is to move them into a full-time opportunity. So ultimately we need them to have a 4-year degree. We look at that related experience. And then we have an agreement with the Board of Education that through our 70+ hours of upfront training and 40 hours of continual training, they can award IJAG credit. So we are an elective at the school district level. So students that take the program, they do earn credit towards graduation. And it's part of their schedule every day. And so we need to have that authorization for our IJAG specialists to be able to award that credit. Some of the things that our education specialists work on. So not only are they learner-centered and instructional strategies, so doing that classroom work, but they also provide the advocacy and guidance to the students in a one-on-one or group setting. They're doing the community service and employer engagement outreaches. And then ultimately, as I talked about earlier with data, they are doing that data entry and management to ultimately hold themselves and the program accountable so that we can have that return on investment for you all as stakeholders. Student selection. So we talk about what we call our need, want, benefit. So we always say that the district can help us identify students that need a program like us, that would benefit from a program like us, but ultimately it needs to be the student that wants to be involved. They're the ones that are going to show up every single day. They're the ones that are going to put themselves out there to essentially shake hands with an employer, send out a resume, stand up in front of their class and present. So ultimately, we want students that want to be, potential leaders, future leaders, and future generation professionals. When we're looking at students, we do a selection process called and identified through barriers and indicators. So some of these barriers and indicators that we try to identify come in the form of academics, so performance levels, absentee, personal, so emotional disorders or documented disabilities. So anybody that is on a 504 or IEP would benefit from our program. Environmental, so parents did not graduate or go to college or currently are working, post-COVID. They might be in foster care. They might have a juvenile criminal background already, and so they're working through some of those. Or it might be income or work related, where they're currently on free and reduced lunch, or really they've had no job experience or inadequate job experience. So those are some of the few indicators that we have for potential students in our program. As a quick snapshot of just last year in a glance, as an overarching, when you think about our current student population from last year, as you can see, 75% of those were on free and subsidized lunch. 57 of them were economically disadvantaged. 57 lived in single family households. 40% low academic performance. 78% occupational. So I won't go through all of them, but as you can see, it's a wide range of those barriers or indicators. Ultimately, at IJAG, we're committed to providing equity for youth achievement and really believing in the students that they can overcome these obstacles with the right supports and resources. And every year we continue to see students that they defy the odds with, and we do this through the data as I'm providing, to really trump the graduation rates at a national level, state level, local level. At IJAG, we truly believe that every young person deserves a chance to succeed regardless of kind of their circumstances and challenges, and that hopefully that our industry and funding partners that we have invest in us help us create those young people that lead to great promise to build, ultimately build stronger schools, better businesses, better communities across the state. So we kind of think that, as a partnership, we can create a talent pipeline, locally and statewide of educated and empowered and employed young professionals. And to wrap things up, obviously, we are not a free service. So the program cost is $25,000 to the district every year. So that $25,000 is a one-time payment per year on an annual basis. It gets you that full-time employee. So we kind of have broken it down. If going to operate a program like this with a full-time person at salary and benefits, it costs about $89,000. So as you can see, only paying $25,000 per year for an individual that might cost a district level $89,000 is a discount. The cost of an IJAG to the school is about $1,800 per student if you break down the numbers. So when you think about really what's going on right now with the charter and open enrollments, that's $7,200, $7,000 range. If you're costing, taking out the $1,800 per student cost for every, basically 5 students that we're preventing from dropping out, moving districts, you're saving as a district roughly about $5,000 or a little bit more. As a nonprofit, obviously, we have multiple avenues of funding. So as you can see there with the pie chart, about 50% of our revenue last year came from the state funding. So we received state funding from the legislators. 26% came from the schools, so that $25,000 that we receive. And then we have private sector and grants that kind of make up about that other 25%-ish. So that's a lot of information in a very small amount of time. So I wanted to also provide time for questions for anybody that has them, talking about kind of next steps if we need to get there. but do appreciate the time to come in here and allow me to present.
So this, captures the students who currently wouldn't be involved with OJT or Kirkwood Workplace Learning Connection, that kind of thing.
That's correct.
And we see it as an opportunity to also partner with those opportunities. So getting to students at a younger grade level and a younger age ultimately tools them up when they get into those on-the-job training opportunities and work-based learning opportunities as well.
So from a budget standpoint, we're not hiring a full-time person,
Correct.
but it is more money. So some of your other things mentioned earlier, how does that fit with expenses, revenue?
It obviously it will go up $25,000. But we look at this as another level of care that our students need. And Teresa and I have talked about it quite a bit. And being able to provide this for those students. We had the question earlier, what do we do with those students that just don't want to do anything? This is a program that works with some of those students to be able to get them tied in, to be able to help them learn job skills and then be able to get them out in our community working with a potential job afterwards. So we feel it's a program that's just going to hit another layer of our students. And we feel it's worthwhile. I mean, we're trying to hit as many layers of our kids as we can, and we just feel that this is a layer that we're not hitting. I don't know, Teresa, if you want to add on, or is that?
I think that's good, and it potentially, I'm gonna go back to the OJT, it could potentially be a benefit for some of our students that are on OJT to have them do this. Then IJ would partner with that OJT business. It would be a different realm of students. And our OJT currently has a large number of students that they manage, and so we're looking to try to reduce that number. So this might alleviate some of that as well.
Is there a minimum number of students that's needed?
Marcus, I can't remember the recommended minimum number of students.
Yeah, so when we launch a program, we look for 30 to 35, but ultimately we want to serve about 45 to 60 students. That's kind of our target goal to really get that return on investment for the district. All of our districts are a little bit different depending on enrollment numbers. So we kind of work with the district on what we can and do and set a reasonable number or a realistic number that we are working towards, which is ultimately where we get to a point where it might be a 9 through 12 program, because we might start with juniors and seniors, and then we add sophomores to get a little bit closer, and then ultimately round out with freshmen to get to 45, 50 students. So that's ultimately what we're working towards.
So I have a couple questions. One, if you could kind of give me an example of a school that you're currently in, that would be roughly the size of our district, and what that person, that teacher does, what their typical day looks like, and how many businesses they're dealing with.
Yeah, off the top of my head, I'm trying to think in terms of a relevant size.
Mount Pleasant would be close to us, Marcus, if you
Okay.
know.
Yeah, so Mount Pleasant, we're running actually a fantastic program, and I know Mr. Stone and Teresa have talked with them. So We have two programs. We have actually two specialists there. We have a 9-10 program and 11-12 program that's really thriving. In terms of employer engagement, they're averaging about 4 to 5 employer engagements a month. So individuals coming into the classroom connecting with students. Our 11-12 specialist there, he has over 40 students in what we call our follow-up. So seniors that go through the program, and then we track them for a year after high school, whether they graduate or not. And so that way we can have that data results to say, here's how many seniors graduated through the program. Here's what they're doing in terms of full-time employment, part-time employment, post-secondary, military service, getting down to the nitty-gritties of their average wage, average hours worked, and ultimately bringing that back to you all at the board at any point in time to say, here's that ROI on the $25,000 that you're doing, is getting these students out into opportunities and identifying them. When it comes to our districts, sometimes we're sharing employers. So we have communities that leverage each other. We focus on same four core that Build My Future does around skill trades, construction. We add IT, healthcare into that, and right now, because we are located in Des Moines as our central hub, financial into some of this as well. But we have partnerships with like John Deere. Principal Finance Group is one of our big ones in Des Moines. Mid-American, Alliant Energy, some of these places that are statewide. Our John Deere partnership, John Deere provides all of our programs $300 of what we call Kickstart funds for fundraising and getting students the ability to buy IJAG swag. Some of our folks, we had one group that bought a cotton candy machine this year, so they provided cotton candy to all the football games, basketball games, and the proceeds kind of went back to the program to ultimately help them do field trips and college visits. So really we get the employer engagement side in on multiple ways, as mentors, as donors to the program, internships, apprenticeships, hiring. You'll really see a lot of uniqueness with your local employers. And I do know that was part of what Teresa and Mr. Stone and I had talked about, was in that apprenticeship and internship space, really letting us kind of lead the way with our partnerships. And we have with the employers that we partner with, we create a work plan for every student. So how many hours are they going to work? How much are they going to get paid? What's the duration of the internship or apprenticeship that they're going to go through? A lot of our kiddos, prior to an internship or an apprenticeship, we're helping them earn certifications. So it might be OSHA 10 so that they're better off in terms of safety. It might be a welding certificate so that they're now more employable and they're coming in starting at a higher pay range because they're certified. It really is trying to identify what that student's interest is, and then what's that pathway that they need to get there. And then our education specialists just support them on a day-to-day basis.
What were you gonna ask?
So you're talking like there was like an 11, 12, and then like a 9 and 10. So is it $25,000 per grade level? Is it 25 for 8 through 12? How does that work?
Yeah, great question. So it truly is per program. So in our smaller district where we need to run a 9 through 12 program, where it's 25 for that whole 9 through 12. It's basically per body that we're hiring. So if you came in and said we want one program 9 through 12, 25,000. If in a case where we have Mount Pleasant where they have a 9-10 program and 11-12 program, then the cost would be for 2 individuals, so it'd be 50,000 to the district. So it really boils down to student head counts. So a lot of times, a lot of our programs, they start with 1, see what the numbers look like. And then maybe by year 2 or year 3, they say we have enough students or we have enough funding that we want to expand. And then we just add on there. We never really want to come in and force you to do 2 programs if we're not quite sure if we can get to the number of students, because with 2 programs, we would expect double that roster. So we would want 45 to 60 in the 9-10 and 45 to 60 in the 11-12, ultimately supporting 90 to 100 plus students.
I'm gonna re-ask what you asked for, because I don't think I heard the answer. help me understand, like, day to day, what does this person do? They're working with students like for a block at a time, or do they have these students all? Do they
Yeah.
go to the employers and work with these students? I'm not understanding, what exactly does the person do each day?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I know that that was asked earlier. I apologize. So on a day-to-day, our education specialists, they build into the schedule. So these students are in the IJAG classroom and during an assigned time, just like any other elective. So IJAG would have a classroom. We operate out of the school in a classroom setting. And so for 3 to 4 periods a day, we work into the schedule. So a period schedule, block schedule, you name it, we'll be in it. And then during that other part of their day, that's when they are doing that employer outreach. They're doing one-on-one time, advisory time with students. They're helping them fill out applications. They're taking them on job shadows, college, like I said, college visits, those work-based learning opportunities, and really just whatever advisory or counseling type of experience that student might need at that time. But they are truly a full-time individual in the school. So they don't split their time between another school. They don't split their time with another job. They're expected to be in the school from first bell to last bell, unless they're doing some of those off-site expectations that we have.
But they're still expected to fulfill all of our graduation requirements, right? This would be an elective.
Students, it is considered an elective, yep. So that's what he was talking about earlier, that it's approved, they have a 70-hour program with 40 hours continuing that the state approves. So since the state approves it, then it's considered an elective.
Yep, so the students would receive a credit.
Yeah,
It would be almost like, so we went to Mount Pleasant and talked to the teachers. It would almost be like having job skills and then having an OJT block. Would be the same concept, except IJAG is very scripted and prescriptive as far as the curriculum. And then they have people come in every week. So when we were there was a guy from Davenport talking about the difference between having a career and having a job and how much you make doing this, and talking to the kids about what that looks like and what their paths were and stuff like that. So somebody comes in every week from a business to do that with these students, and then the students are doing that learning with the teacher from there.
Do you foresee this taking the place of job skills, or is it separate?
No, it's separate.
Okay.
We see this potentially helping with our students that are currently taking the Succeed class. And maybe rolling this in because those students don't always have the opportunities to take OJT or things like that. So this gives them that path to get that connection so that they can have that extra skill set potentially.
What is the Succeed?
Succeed is a program that works with some of our at-risk students, and it is a block. They have that as a block a day as well, and they're learning study skills, basic habits, executive functioning skills, things like that.
So then kiddos that are in there would be, like, their next step would be to do.
We're looking at how that would potentially look. It could potentially look that way. It may not be the best fit, and it may be there's a mixture of kids from that still need some of those skills, but then we have other students that need this, so. And I think looking at our job skills, which students would benefit, that have currently have OJT that would really benefit from this IJAG experience with the learning within the classroom on a daily basis, more than once, because job skills you can take once. IJAG you can take every time. You can stay in the college, so it's more of a consistent learning.
any other questions right now from Marcus?
The questions, my only comment is, I really like it, just. We get to our budget workshop or work session that to see, how this extra expense to go with family insurance, how
It all fits in.
it all fits.
Good.
Can you remind me one more time, what's IJAG standing for?
Iowa Jobs for America's Graduates.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Marcus.
Yep, you bet. Thanks, everyone.
Okay. Moving on to consent items.
I'll make a motion that we approve consent items A and C through G.
Been moved and seconded to approve consent items A and C through G. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Consent items A, C through G passes. So now I need another motion to, in which Jim will be abstaining. For B.
Move to, for consent item B.
The moved and seconded to approve consent item B as presented. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion passes. All right. On to action items. First one up, the glazing bids.
So last Thursday, we had the glazing bid package bids due. And on the very last page of the packet we have here are the results of the 4 bidders that submitted. We had Mid-American Wood Construction, East Moline Glass, and Cable Glass, which is better known, at least to me, as Foreman Forward. So pretty good participation, obviously a lot better than last time. The numbers are a little bit spread out, but as you can see, Mid-American came in as our low bidder. The estimate for the project was at $253,000, and the clear low bidder was at $330,000. Quite a bit higher than what we were predicting, but with the participation that we had, I think that's pretty much the best that the market's gonna yield at this time. So this still falls well within the original budget that we had. We had a pretty healthy bidding and estimated contingency left over. Still falls well within there, able to reallocate those funds still to phase 2 and right back into the overall construction contingency. So still feeling pretty good about it. And I would recommend awarding the contract to Mid-American Glazing. I did give them a call, talk through the project. It's pretty straightforward from the glazing perspective, so I'm not concerned with them. And I do have experience with Mid-American on one other project, and they performed well on that one. So I'm confident that they can do the job for us. So
Thank you very much. Jordan. All right. So
Let's see, I'll move that we accept the bid.
Mid-American Glazing.
Glazing systems. The vendor. As a little bit, sorry.
been moved and seconded to approve, to accept a low bid from Mid-American Glazing Systems for glazing on the new middle school and high school improvement project. All those in any discussion? First of all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Now we're all done with the package.
we are all done. We'll be breaking ground next month, if weather cooperates. So looking forward to it.
Good.
Should be great.
Thank you, Jordan.
Yep, thank you, everyone. Appreciate it.
Moving on, next item, Guatemala service.
This is, we're looking to approve this, so we presented at the last board meeting. If there aren't any other questions, if there are questions, I do have Lydia here to answer. If not, we'll go through.
I do have one question. Is there another trips also planned for Spanish, or is this gonna be the only one kind of offered?
This is the only one at this time because we don't have a Spanish
Yeah,
teacher.
but I mean, I'm just like, in general, like,
Yeah,
would this, if it continues, would this be the only thing offered, would there be also be other opportunities for them?
there can always be other opportunities if we have other sponsors.
Yeah.
But it would still have to come through the board for the board to approve. So if those opportunities come up, then the board can make a decision on, we want to do this one, we don't want to do this one. However, the board wants to proceed with that.
I have a question. Or a few.
Yeah.
So this trip, I asked you this last time about how inclusive it was. You told me for somebody with physical disabilities, it would be basically not acceptable. And I feel like there's lots of ways to show our kiddos how to give service and have service and do service. And to do it inclusively so that everybody can be included. I understand it's a great trip and I understand it builds homes for people in Guatemala. And I have nothing against that. What I am against is us talking about teaching our kids to accept everybody and be inclusive. And then doing things that are not inclusive. I believe there's lots of ways that there's lots of services, trips that could be done that would be inclusive to everybody, that would include everybody and everybody could participate. This is the second trip that my daughter's had the opportunity to go to since she's been in school. And this will be the second one that she was told that it's not possible for her to go. And to me, that's not right. That's not why we're here. So I have a real problem with that. I also have a problem with, I believe, the last time I checked, you don't have to go outside of Washington County to find somebody without a home. So that is also a problem for me.
So
It just gets really old going home and telling her that she can't be involved. So I think there's obviously lots of service work done in this world that can include everybody.
you said you had questions. Do you have questions or just statements?
Yeah, I do have a question. Isn't there other trips out there that would include everybody?
Certainly.
And I think that'd be worth looking at. Don't you think?
I don't disagree. This is the thing that I have connections with and opportunity and experience, so that's why I'm bringing forward an opportunity.
So as a board, we need to make a decision if we want to approve or disapprove this. So
Somebody wants to make a motion?
Well, I'll also say that, this is for, Spanish, for the Spanish, right? Or is it just, anything
Same thing.
in general?
yeah,
I definitely acknowledge what you say, Troy. Yeah, I would love to be able to include everybody, regardless of their physical ability or not. And I hate that for your daughter that's what these two trips have been. I don't like that. However, I don't want to keep this opportunity from other kids that can go. But I think there's definitely room for growth. Let's find things that she can do. Let's find things that anybody can go on. And likely that's a challenge to any other teacher or staff member or community member. Let's find something that other kids can go on, that any kid can go on. So with that, I'll go ahead and move to approve the Guatemala service trip as presented.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the Guatemala service trip as presented. Any more discussion? Okay, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Nay. Motion passed. All right. On to discussion items. First up, board policy, first reading, 603.6, 603.9, 604, dash 604.11.
These are the policies that our group went over this last month. We have one policy that we're waiting on. It's the PE policy. Just because it's changed, it changed just recently and we haven't gotten the new policy primers out yet. Once we have that, and that's the 603.6. Once we have that, the new policy primer, we'll bring it back to the group. Everything else has been vetted by the policy committee and they would recommend to move forward with us as the first reading.
Is there something else with the European policy
Say it again.
from previous?
Yes, the 603.9, America, or academic freedom, sorry, academic freedom, and then teaching controversial issues. Within the policy, there are things within the policy where it states that teachers can tell their beliefs, but they cannot use that as swaying. And we just checked into it to see if we legally have to have that, and we are legally required to have that. So it's our responsibility as administrators that if that happens, we talk to that teacher and take action with that teacher to make sure that doesn't continue to happen.
But didn't we have another PE, was it previous month where we had something with PE?
We did, it's the same one. It's the same one. We got through and we discussed this and like I said, with a new policy, we don't want to approve a policy and then 2 months later get a primer that we have to redo. So it's the same policy. You are correct.
Any other questions? All right, moving on. We don't need to address IJ.
Nope.
All right. So, next discussion item is the position of registrar.
And this is just there'll be a couple meetings on this. We won't put this into action. I don't believe next meeting. This will be a discussion moving forward. The very beginning, we just started talking about it. With the ever-changing structure of schools, there are increased opportunities for students to have apprenticeships. That's a year-long thing. That with the state programming that's being offered now for apprenticeships, there is a ton of paperwork that comes with that. And that the schools are required to fill out right now. Our guidance counselors are the ones that are doing that. And as we talked earlier, our counselors aren't able to spend time counseling because they're doing apprenticeships, they're doing master schedules, they're doing schedule changes, things like that, it's really taking away from the ability for them to provide SEBH for our students. So this is a possibility for that. Register all new students will help with mail registrations. Possibility for SRI reporting oversight. And then as I said before, the high school master scheduling and middle school master scheduling. Elementary is so specific with how kids are used that it'll be hard for them to do it. You have to have a better knowledge of what's going on in the building, whereas in the middle school, you have course offerings. So this is our very initial, I wanted to present to you. If it looks like something that, hey, yes, we might want to do it. It's just one, yeah. And if it looks like something, yes, we might want to do it, then we'll dig a lot further and build a better job description of what this person would do. We haven't talked salary wise where they would sit. We haven't talked about any of that stuff. We just wanted to see if the board thinks this could be something that we could look at. And I know, well, you're saying, hey, well, we need to know the money, which I need to also, but we're trying to gauge time management, to be very honest with you. Is this something that we want to, I believe it's something we need to spend time on to do a more in-depth dive so that the board knows more. But I want to make sure before we do that, you guys feel are looking the same way with that.
Teresa, just a quick question. How much time in a day or in a week? Your two counselors, how much of that time would you say is taken up by together? So, but here's my fear, really, is if we have two people who's 90% of their time taking up their schedule, and we're gonna have one person do it, it means they're gonna have to take that 180% and do it all themselves.
You're correct, and that would be one of the worries I had, but at the same time, the other thing you need to look at is the lack of interruptions throughout when they're trying to do it. So, you know, yes, we may be 90%, but if every 10 minutes they're, hey, can you, every 10 minutes probably turns into a half hour of I'm off track doing something. So I understand your concern, and that's what we'll have to look at. That's like I say, we'll have to look deeper at it, but every time they get interrupted, it's at least a 10-minute interruption. It's, you know, so excuse me. That would be some of the worry.
What would be the job responsibilities of the council?
Counselors are gonna counsel. They're gonna be with our kids who need counseling. They'll still have a scholarship, some of the scholarship stuff. That won't be taken off. We haven't talked about taking that off their plate. So that would be part of it, because that's part of that counseling. But they would be able to be more effective as long in dealing with SEBH type activities.
They would also be able to meet with the families for junior planning. So right now they only do senior planning, and that's at the beginning of their senior year. So they would actually be able to do some of the planning with students that they don't get to do because they don't have time. That's huge.
Social emotional behavioral learning.
Well, I think really what you're looking at here is you're looking at counselors who are going to be paid a lot more money than this position. So why are you taking professional people when you can get a person that can fill this position that isn't a professional?
That's where we honestly have to have, that's gonna be a deeper discussion, because this person, whoever it is gonna have to have a deep knowledge of Power School. They're gonna have to have a deep knowledge of scheduling. And those things are,
They don't need a teacher certificate.
they don't, but that, at the same time, that's not a walk off the street, hey, I can do this type of thing either, for the most part. You may have the diamond in the rough, but it'll be a little more challenging than that.
Oh, sure, but it can be filled by somebody who isn't a licensed educator.
Yep,
This is for middle school and high school.
yes, this will actually be district wide. There are some other things that we could use them for if we have time. It's gonna be that time management. And it may be, if we do it, it may be the first year we say this is a job description. And if it's too much, we can't do it, then we back some of the things off. If it's not enough, then we add some things to it. It may have to be a fluid job. It may have to be a fluid job.
It would be nice to see, a list of everything that Belinda and Kathy do right now. And what you would transition over, just to
Yep.
give us an idea.
Yep,
And then the other thing I thought of is right now, because we're the only school that has 2 guidance counselors at the high school level in this area, right? So maybe it's a size thing.
that I couldn't tell you. I would have to look.
I'm just looking at
Yeah.
the Kirkwood thing that came out earlier today, but. Are there other schools in the area that have a registrar type job position that they utilize?
I haven't put out any feelers. I don't know, Teresa, if you have.
I don't know either.
But that's all stuff like you said, we're in the very infant stage of this discussion. Jeff Brock wants to talk to me about it, because when he sees SRI, that hits him. So we started having that discussion a little bit today, so.
So then the counselors are working with your students who aren't being serviced right now.
Say,
So if our counselors are gonna be doing the counseling and not doing the scheduling. What students aren't being served now, that they'll be able to serve
we have a
in
bunch
the
of,
future.
we have a bunch of students that they're not serving because
And they don't qualify for.
we try it.
Social or
It may not be big enough to get them to have them use Gracie May. Yeah, I mean, it can be smaller issues that we're unable to deal with. Yeah, so
Well, speaking as a parent who has two high school kids, it's incredibly hard to get information, to and from the guidance counselors because they're so busy.
mhm,
Like, I feel their pain and I know those two ladies are absolutely swamped.
Yep.
So if there's anything that we can do, to alleviate that, to be able to make them do their job, be able to do their job, to be able to like.
do
get
the
to students
intended
that-
job.
Yeah, do their intended job, that they're supposed to do, that they want to do, so that the kids can get the attention that they need. I think it's definitely worth looking into.
Do you see there be like a transition of still needing guidance counselors to assist for that first year?
I think it all depends on who you hire and how much knowledge they have. If we hire someone fresh that's never worked with high school scheduling. Yeah, there's gonna have to be some kind of transition period because. It's just not, I mean, you just don't pick that up. That's. Years ago, 20 years ago, I took a class on it when I was an assistant principal and worked with our principal and do it. And it's intense.
I'd be interested, just, going into it further and looking at the budget, and seeing. What we think the cost would be. Obviously, we heard earlier from Teresa that we definitely need more counselors, maybe she needs counseling, and she needs.
Yep.
Somebody helping with intervention. But I also, we just listened to a presentation from IJAG, spending some money there, spending money here. And I just want to make sure we just did big, early retirement to save money. And I guess I just want to see.
We wanna make sure it's not spending all we're saving.
And I understand, I'm just gonna say this. While we're here. We really went for the last 4 or 5 years on social being able to have good charts and spending money on interventionists and all this and emotional. Kids that have emotional deficiencies, and I just wish we put a little bit of that into kids that have physical deficiencies. We just don't put it out there because they just did, so.
Okay.
we have to-
Any other questions on that? If not, then. We're moving on to the
Are
next
we-
item.
So we're gonna let us know sometime in the next week about a possible.
I'll get a calendar out for a special meeting. Yep. I'll get a
And
calendar
we did-
request out.
We got one of our work sessions done tonight, but we talked about a couple of them.
We need to do we need to do a budget work session and then a 5-year plan, updating our 5-year plan work session. My question would be, if we go at 6, Sonia is unable to be involved, correct?
I can if it's on Monday.
Okay.
Monday
Do-
or Friday, just Tuesday, through.
Okay, do we want to do it, have a separate session on a different night? So that everyone can be involved?
Probably. Very possible.
Okay,
So, I think that's kind of-
I think so too, and
Yeah.
we're getting to that.
Not a big deal.
We're getting to that point in the year where we're gonna have more evenings open, just because sports, believe it or not, winter sports are starting to wind down. I mean, it's crazy how fast it's going, but come March, unless you're in state tournament play, which I hope we are, they're pretty much wound down, so. I will get some calendar dates out to everybody. I'll look at the school calendar first to see what we have going on. And then get those dates to you.
Sounds good.
All right,
Motion to adjourn.
Motion adjourned.
I'll second that.
Been moved and seconded to adjourn. Any discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed? That's off.